Welcome to the Make Space for Growth podcast. My name is Serendipity, and I'm your host. I'm a corporate strategist, problem solver, social entrepreneur, writer, mom of two, and passionate for growth, at home, in business, or in my community. It has been a while since Sabine was with us in the podcast. The beginning of the year flew by, no doubt, between skiing, multiple family birthdays, a lot of traveling, and as always, some reflection. Following my year of space, I have spent quite a bit of time making space for rest and health in my life. When sleep is the number one priority, it is not always easy to make the time for all the passions that I have in life. So the podcast got a bit behind. This year, my motto is light, and therefore I am focused on bringing things into my life that give me light and peace, and also things that bring up my zone of genius and I can shine without fear. These podcasts no doubt bring me huge energy, as I love getting deeper into knowing these amazing women and sharing with the world more about them. So it's time to get on with it. I'm super excited about our guest today. I'll be talking to Rita, who I have met through LinkedIn of all places, and since been interacting and getting to know better. I'm amazed by her busy endeavors, and I think you will like to know all the projects she's involved in and how she approaches her day-to-day to get it all done. She has a massive energy, and I think you will hear it in her voice. So, Rita Vilas-Boas is an angel investor and startup advisor with more than 20 years experience as an operator, having had several marketing and leadership roles in 7 countries across 3 continents. Rita started her career working for 10 years in consumer good companies like P&G and L'Oreal, managing brands like Gillette, Duracell, or La Roche-Posay, assuming numerous regional and global commercial roles with increasing responsibility and leadership. She has worked for 5 years for family businesses within the beverage industry, successfully managing world-renowned brands, as well as developing and growing other craft brands by supporting their growth through more than 100 distribution sites around the globe. Rita lived in Shanghai for 4 years, leading the marketing, communications, and portfolio strategy for Summergate Fine Wines and Spirits, one of the leading drinks companies in China, now a Fortune 500 company. In the last years, Rita has invested as an angel in 8 startups. She's an LP founder of the first Portuguese Founders Fund. She is also a founder member of the first Classic Liberal Party in Portugal. Rita was born, raised, and educated in Porto, obtaining a bachelor's degree in biotechnology with a major in microbiology, a post-graduation in bioethics, and executive programs in marketing, finance, and leadership. She lives between Lisbon, Porto, and the Douro Valley. With this introduction, it's time to get going. So join me for this journey to make space for growth with Rita Vilas-Boas. Rita, welcome to the Make Space for Growth podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here.
So before we talk business, may I ask you, what was your favorite thing to do as a child, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
I've been always very curious. In the more serious thing, I was just dismantling thing. I wanted to know how things were, like, fixing stuff. But my real dream, because I was doing the Royal Academy of Dancing and I was playing piano, so I really wanted to go to fame. I thought fame was Juilliard, so I always wanted to be a dancer and go to fame. I don't know if kids relate now, but the first generation of fame is my generation. Dancing on taxi, like street and dancing. So if you see me dance anytime, it's because I still remember I wanted to be on fame.
You still had that dream. From fame to marketing, you had multiple experiences in this sector. Can we talk a little bit about those early years and how your career developed at that time?
I'm Portuguese, so I end up going to biotechnology because I'm very curious. I love science, and the natural way was probably go to medicine. And those years when I was in high school was the years there was a lot of changes in education, and they were testing things that I didn't believe. So I end up going. So I just want to go to engineer, and then I went to the biotechnology school, and I loved it. It was so. This is 91, right? So this is so progressive and. So the future now, kids, I think people relate like the biotechnology is definitely the future, but then you needed to see it. So biotechnology is 3 main areas: food, environment, and health. And my passion has been more related to food. So I did my bachelor in science there, and then I went for a a training specialization in Denmark. And this is how I find out about people that work in marketing, because they were working on the new product development. I was for bacteria and spray drying and freeze drying. And there's these people say, oh, they're looking at Excel sheets and seeing what's better and like more what I like. And then that's when I came back to Portugal and I decided I wanted to go to marketing, management, all that stuff. So I never thought marketing was what I was going to do, because, you know, probably that was for my friends who didn't go very well in school back then. Now I'm sure there's great schools for marketing.
And so you spent 10 years at least in that industry. How did the career develop? What was
No, it was just a coincidence. I think it was everything. And in general, and I say this with trying to inspire other founders and young girls. If we plan too much, things don't. I mean, it's never happened. It's great to plan, but be ready to change and pivot. So at the end, I think it was always serendipity that ruled my destiny. So actually, when I came back and I did bioethics, and I was an assistant in the university, and then I realized I just wanted to go to marketing. So I was in Porto. I picked up my suitcase. I arrived in the last day of the Expo 98. And I don't know, I started talking with people. There was a lot of multinational companies also coming to Portugal then, or starting, and then start printing resumes, giving it away. And in 2 weeks, I was working at L'Oreal.
That was a quick jump. And then after spending, a fair amount of time.
10 years. Actually, it was 20 years. 10 years in multinational companies. So I was in L'Oreal and P&G for 10 years. In Portugal, Spain, and Geneva, in Switzerland for European and global headquarters. And then I spent 8 years. So 20 years.
You've spent quite a lot of time in a more corporate, maybe orientated industry, but then you also started founding companies in the meantime and moved into the investor side. I know you spoke about serendipity, but why did you decide to kind of make that move?
There wasn't a move. It wasn't. I tell you, it's serendipity. So like I was in Shanghai and a couple of friends who are involved in startups. One of them, one is Kenku. He's starting to think about this area that was my first passion in biotechnology. Eventually, when he came back, then I came back later, and then my friends were investing in him, and it's just so close to my heart and to my biotechnology background. So I ended up investing because I knew him. I knew that it was capable. I loved the idea. I knew it was a breakthrough. And the second one was because it's my friend from my political party. So, and second was somebody that asked me to be introduced. So it was actually with COVID that I realized I've been investing on the side, and why not make it a real thing, not just on the side. So because I thought I could do, and it was, a role of mine could be supporting founders, but not as a way of making a life. I didn't realize there was all this more deeper, you can beyond being an angel, you can also monetize it and survive.
And thrive. Hopefully. It's clearly there's been a lot of serendipity, and I think that's often the case. And today you're a passionate business angel investor, advisor. Can you tell us a bit more about, your investment thesis and how you work with companies?
Today, I was telling somebody, potential investor, I was saying, if my investors would know as much about me as my founders, I would have a big fund now. Instead of just saying the talk with my founders, I walk the talk. So, when I'm supporting either for fundraising or revising startup pitches or making introductions or being present on revising business model or how we're going to react to the market or to competition, I'm really there. I'm not just saying. So I'm really part of the journey. And I think what founders, people that met me, people who like to work with me, that's what they tell. I know in this industry, everything's our reputation. And that's what, so many times I get new deal flow, I get new founders because somebody recommends to somebody else and say, you should meet Rita. Or I rather have people who love me and people who hate me than have that middle ground. So at least the people who love me, I I know I can count on, and they can count on me. And the others won't bother me, will be doing whatever, and I'll be happy having very long negative energy very far away from me.
So I think you've started already alluding a little bit to what you're doing now, a new project you're cooking. And so maybe we could take this opportunity today to hear a bit about it and what drove you to do this.
Sarah, I'm very happy to not to talk about it because I can't make solicitation, but I'll
Not
tell
soliciting.
you. Well, I think it's the natural next thing for me, right? I mean, being an angel investor and advisor and like being part of the ecosystem in the last few years as taking, I had no idea this was going to happen this way. So it just comes natural to me. What's next?
Okay, so we're gonna keep it a secret for now, but I think the solicitation part may give it a little bit away.
Look, I'll tell you, I went back to school. So I'm doing the VC lab, which is a venture capital lab accelerator based in Silicon Valley. And the founder is Adeo Ressi, which was, a partner, also a founder of PayPal. He's friends with Elon Musk. Now it's a 16-week program. I'm halfway, so I survived. And it's not an academic project. It's really, so you're creating your company, and you already meeting investors, founders, preparing new companies you want to invest. But because it's not only me or my money, so it's a very detailed process. I take this very seriously. For 20 years working corporate and for family businesses or startups, I've always played more with my money and taken other people's money very seriously, even more serious. So that's what I'm trying to do. And do it in a very transparent way, using all the principles that, it's venture capital business in Europe is quite, I would say, obscure, lack of transparency. So and VC Lab is well known for, there's a oath. So you have to be ethical, transparent, be serious. And that's what I'm trying to do, as well as always. Like, I try to bring a new angle, transparency and governance to an industry that has not been so happy with reputation.
For sure. And thank you for sharing that. Maybe as a side note and related to your day-to-day still, people don't always know what an investor spends their day doing. And only recently I've started having a few investors on the podcast. How do you organize your day between advising, searching, negotiating, and all the things you need to do?
Being a scientist doesn't mean I have this very, very, very crazy. I'm a Virgo, so I tend to be very structured, but I fight myself with the organization because you can't control everything. And, I think when I turned 40, I finally realized that I can only control what I can control. So don't try to control the rest. But I try to do slots. Right. So depending on my mood, I know that I'm a morning person. So I try to work more on my computer and do, let's say, due diligences and use my brain for concentration stuff, meet the founders or investors who have meetings in the afternoon or dinner time, because it's more, so I'm more listening and getting, so I try to organize that, but you never know who you're going to get. Sometimes I get invited to conferences, and suddenly you're watching a great pitch or you're seeing a great founder and you're already taking notes, how can help, and if that makes sense. And the areas I'm very passionate about, of course, being besides consumer, is biotech and how biotechnology can be a leverage for, let's say, science meets deep tech.
All right. So typically here we've been talking about business and entrepreneurship, but there is a side of you I don't want to ignore related to civic participation. And while I do not want us to go into a political discussion that would require multiple podcast episodes, I would welcome maybe getting to know more of your motivations between getting involved in politics and creating a party from scratch.
I think that's the right word, motivation. Being in and out of my country for 20 years and being 15 years really living outside of Portugal. You can take the girl out of Portugal, but you can't take Portugal out of the girl, right? So when I decided to come back finally and establish my life here, I was tired of fighting the system. I am still tired of fighting the current government and lack of transparency. Instead of being frustrated and just criticizing, because that's going to take all the energy out and we'll get zero results, I decided with a bigger group of friends who are also already doing and thinking about that, So let's do an option. Let's do the first liberal, but liberal in terms of European positioning. And so it's for me, the important things, of course, it's in all areas, but mostly what Portugal needs: economic growth, less taxes, a simpler system, make life easier for entrepreneurs, really have the power of meritocracy, and not because you're son of or you've been in politics for all your life, you deserve this position. So that's what we try to do. Although, there's a social area, but Portugal has been quite liberal socially in the last 20 years. I think the important thing is economic growth, because we need to step up. We are down the bottom, and deeper we go, continuing the current government. So we want to be an alternative, and I think an alternative that fits youngsters and young people, and they understand what it is to be entrepreneur and to have your own company.
No, that's great, and thank you for sharing that. So I think we know a little bit about what you do, and so I wanted to go into a bit of a moment of reflection. When you look at the different stages of your career, what was similar, a common line across, marketing, entrepreneurship, investment, politics? What is the common thread that you see?
I think breaking ceilings. In the corporate world, I decided to also go to sales because marketing was more women. And taking advantage of our disadvantages was something that I realized that could work for me. And I thought it was one in many. When then I went to startups, family office, a business company in the wine business. I was the first woman director in that company and the first woman under 40. Then startups in China, not many women. Now here, investor, giving face, showing not only, there are a few women, but I don't think they're so communicative, or I want people to hear me out and be inspired so they can follow, that option. We can only inspire to be what we can see.
And I think you do a lot about putting yourself out there that people can see. But it's interesting that the common trend has been to fight against the trend. So that's a good one.
Yes.
And then I guess on the other hand of it, there's things that I'm sure have been radically different between having a corporate job and being business angel, entrepreneur. What is your biggest one when you look through your career?
I think in general, we always say the Portuguese, we're very adaptable, and we kind of can be like chameleons. I believe I am, and I think what helped me navigate so many countries, so many cultures in different types of companies and organizations, and the way the detail or the high level you have to be involved is my adaptability. But I would never be able, I was just saying this week, I would never be able to work in a startup coming directly from like P&G. I think having worked in a family business, bigger, gave me the tools to adjust what is corporate with hundreds of thousands of people to a startup with 500 or 10 people. Because the way you think, the way you organize your life, the way you process, like in a bigger company, you have processes. You have to follow those rules, which I love it, but you learn everything by doing it in a very structured way, right? Startup is anything but structured. Growing in myself, my operator mode, more thinking solutions instead of more processes, and doing it yourself. And it's been 10 years each. So I hope I'm going to last many years. So we should have 3 careers in our life, right? So 20 years. So 20 years of marketing and helping other companies grow. I would love to have 5 years ago, I started this new journey. So 20 years of being an investor, hopefully more. And then 20 years, I don't know, being a yoga teacher and playing DJ
or doing some dancing
in the 80s, in the 80s parties. Yes.
So you started talking a little bit already about breaking the ceiling, and so I did want to bring up, as a woman investor with the focus that you have, especially in the biotech space as well, what challenges do you think you face that are different from everybody else?
I think everybody faces challenges. But in reality, people ask me, oh, but you never invested, you haven't been in the Morgan Stanleys or or the other VCs of the world too. But exactly because of that, I'm different. Because of that, I bring my operational years of experience, and I spent all these years in those countries. I truly believe in true diverse teams. And that power of diverse teams can help us move on. Not everybody can see that, but I have time. And many people can say no, but somebody will say yes. And those I will remember. And you know what? I don't want to, I hate complaining, because the last time I want to complain about the government, I go and create a political party. So I don't want to complain of people who
You don't want to go create something else.
No, I will show the results, and then people will want to invest with me.
Exactly. So you spoke a little bit about how you are very present with your founders, and so maybe this question goes a little bit to it, but I still wanted to kind of cover it directly. What do you think are the characteristics that define you as the investor that the companies will want on their cap table?
You have to ask my founders. I'm supposed to be.
They're not here.
I know, Sarah, but I'm supposed to be super humble. I'm very confident. I don't know. Look, the other day I was working with a founder on the phone, and I was with another founder. It was a woman driving, and there was a man on the phone. And I think it was Lisbon, Porto. So I think for 3 hours I was on the phone and fundraising and contacts and what we do and looking at the pitch. As a Portuguese investor, I believe that part of my job is not to stay with the founders until the end. Especially, I love the beginnings. I love to identify that special something in people, and hopefully they will not have the ego, they will not have problems raising, and they will not have problems in the team. Those are the three, I would say, the three main things that can happen to break a startup. And so, but I was talking to her, and she said, I know that, we have a schedule for, let's say I'll stay for 3 years, and then we have to grow, and we'll bring either UK or US partners to make them grow, because, we're in Portugal. She said, don't ever leave me, because your energy, I think the energy, the enthusiasm, the knowledge that I have in the businesses, customers, with, I spent 20 years, I didn't spend 20 years in marketing, I spent 20 years in business, in different businesses, from hair care to beauty to wine. I've done it all with different channels and different markets, countries, and China, in very complex legal organizations, for very complex companies and countries. So having that knowledge, even if it's that not in that specific business, I can bring a lot of that, and I think I bring it in a positive way. And I'm always there for, one of my founders, she said, I've been trying to call you at midnight. I know you pick up, because I'm there for celebrating, but because investing is not for everyone. When the market is growing, it's fantastic.
It's fun.
It's when shit gets the fan, right? That will see who is your real partner. And I actually, don't ask me why, this just happens. I thrive in crisis, right? And the last big crisis here, 2008, 2013, 15, I was in for some of those years, I was in a family business. Those were the best years, because if you have the right strategies, the right team, the right executions, then you distinguish yourself from the rest of the crowd. And that's what I believe. I believe that if I'm with somebody and I'm going to help, it's because I believe, it's because I trust them, and I hope I'll guide them and they'll guide me as well.
No, it's good, because one thing I said in my intro about you was that I thought people were going to be able to hear the energy and the passion in your voice. And so it's funny that that's the characteristic that you're bringing up, because that was exactly what I would have expected, I guess. So I'm going to go a little bit more into the Rita person. And whilst we don't talk about pandemic anymore, it's like it didn't exist. No doubt the world has changed considerably in the last 5 years. There seems to be a life pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. What changed for you in your day-to-day?
Oh, so many things. I wish I was 25 now, because 25-year-old now, they're getting jobs and they get to spend 2 weeks somewhere and 2 weeks at the company. We had to do, even meetings. I couldn't be on the phone. I had to be present, or you have to be online, but only for very, very. So I stopped high heels and I stopped business cards. That was the biggest impact of my life. I started doing more more time with friends and family, I think, more present, because if you have to be somewhere else, you couldn't be here. But in reality, I'm working as many hours because I think it's on my personality. I never believed, Sarah, I never believed in balanced life, even without when there was no phones. And I mean, there's no life work balance.
There's flow.
Integration. There's integration. There's integration. You're the same person.
Yeah, I call it flow now.
Flow. Oh, even better. Oh, that's very trendy, very buzzwords.
But it's not my it's not from me, but I think it actually reflects what you're saying, because you just go in between the different parts, but you're all the same person.
You're always the same person. You can't disconnect, because I really like what I do. I agree that, you know, the world needs more of what I do. More flexibility about work is probably one of the good thing, well, probably the only good thing that came out of what happened.
And so what does a good day look like for you?
Well, a good day is a day that I close a deal, a day that I can help founders achieve something. So like yesterday, one of my mentees is now starting as an intern in one of my companies, because, you know, she's looking for because I'm a mentor also at the university, and so she's looking for a training, and then, you know, the university provides, and don't, you know, great stuff. But I just thought it would be something very meaningful for this. And so I proposed them to do a call, and they liked each other. Of course, I thought they would, but, you know, I let them decide. And then he proposed to her start working there next month or so. And I feel like doing something good for, even if it's this, or actually, you know, registering a patent. That's a big thing.
You clearly have a very positive attitude, and you say you don't like complaining. So what helps you stay so positive?
Oh, the people around me and the things that inspire you. I think I complained for a few years before I matured. I think you learn also to surround yourself with positive energy and people who actually bring you up instead of bringing you down. So I try to spend time with the right people. My business partner, she was telling me, I was saying, oh, I having this podcast. I say, you're a star, just do your thing. I don't need the pat on the back, but people that are here for you, and, you know, good times and bad times, and not just for the when it's nice, because Rita can help them do something. Now it's really it's a marriage in reality. People that work with you and around you, it's a serious business. So there's going to be arguments, but at the end we'll stay together.
I hope it's the average of the 5 grown-ups that you spend most time with, and not children, by the way.
Well, children can actually inspire us very much, you know that.
No, like they can, but, you know, depends on the conversation that we're having. So what advice would you give to the Rita of, say, 10, 15 years ago, as you embarked on this more entrepreneurial and less corporate side?
Come out of the closet. I didn't assume I wanted to be liked by everyone. You can't do that. So you try to please everyone, and you please nobody, and especially you don't please yourself. Being happy in power of who you are is probably what I would tell me. I mean, besides, you know, accepting mistakes, we all do. We end up accepting it. There's no other way. But what do you do with that besides just the learnings? And be brave enough to tell other people that we don't have to be all the same, because being contrarian. I am also very contrarian in my social and my life. You know, I didn't get married like everybody else at 30, or had kids at 30. I've always been a contrarian, right? But I didn't feel so good about it before. Now I think that's what makes me so special, and accepting that, and not and breaking rules, and being pioneer, and talking. I want to be the one inspiring female founders and female investors, and others as well. But, you know, girls that will come after us, that they can make the same mistakes, but just faster, learn faster, fail faster, and get faster to where we need to go.
I think there's quite a few pieces of advice and lessons in there. So just on the topic of making space, which, as you know, is always a bit of a favorite for me, what is important for you to create space for?
For learning. I don't read enough, and I don't write enough. I'm always doing things. This is why I love so much yoga, and I try to practice every day. So space for you that you can re-energize, right? Because there's few maybe two days a month that will stay home, quiet, because I'm very energetic. People, oh, there's no end in your energy. Well, there is, and I need to regroup. So having that time for myself to recharge internally, and I wouldn't say meditate, because meditate is whatever we want, but just be present and be new, so that I have also the focus to read, write, and learn more in a more theoretical way that is not learning with others doing things.
So it's funny, because you've answered my next question, which was going to be, how do you make that space? And so clearly you've embedded that need to make space for yourself in your life.
Because if you don't recharge, and you're exhausted. And I was feeling exhausted very often, right? So sometimes I'm 2 weeks meeting back to back. Like the last 2 weeks, I didn't have weekends because I was working with some political causes on the weekends. But at the end, you need, every 2 weeks or so, have one day that you're more quiet, you're introspect. I also do at least one yoga retreat a year for a week, that I can also do that. Because I know if I'm with people, or even if I'm on holidays, I'm not a beach person. I can't stay in the beach. So, we normally go sailing, or we do something more fun in water, because, from the water we come. But I'm always thinking, how can I do something? So I try to have, one day is good. It is good for me, or 1 week that I do a yoga retreat, or I do some exercises or workshops. Where I love doing yoga and dancing workshops.
There's always things we want to make space for, and there's also things that take too much space. Is there something that you want to remove, or you've recently removed from your life to make that space? Because we're not always very good at saying no.
I know. So yes, because it's easier for us to advise founders or say no than we do it. I've been pulling off of some conferences and meeting founders just because they ask me. So that's something that I have to say it. I can't just make half an hour for everybody. I think that, as you start investing and you want to learn, and you need to make a reputation, you just want to absorb, right? So now I also need to filter, because I'm doing a bigger thing, and I have responsibilities towards my investors and my founders, and the time is lacking. I'm that person that I get a lot of solicitations on LinkedIn. I try to answer everybody, or emails, introductions, and it's hard to say no. And sometimes you just have to. So that's probably the time that people don't. Oh, but I just want half an hour. I know there's a lot of people that just want half an hour. And
it's only half an hour times a lot.
Yeah. And so because I'm still a mentor, and I will want to continue to be a mentor for at least three organizations. One is a charity in the Douro Valley for children, and that I'm a tutor for physics and chemistry. And they're teenagers, so I want to be there. They're dysfunctional families and social needs. I want to be there because they have high potential, and I believe in social elevators, so I want to be part of that. And that's a couple of hours a week already. And then I'm part of different networks of mentor for women or diverse. And then so the free solicitation it's harder to say, and because I just want to be surrounded with smarter people, with very intelligent people around me. So it's not about that. I always learn. Is really the cost of the opportunity, because if you're doing that, you're not helping your founder, or you're not finding the next big thing or the trends, or listening and seeing what's coming. It's so much information right now. We complained before there was no information. Now it's too much information.
It's definitely.
So you need always to be on top. I remember that when I went to school, university, people, doctors and scientists, you have to learn. Everybody needs to learn every day. It's not doing a training, is actually putting yourself online, or just seeing what are the newspapers, what are the things in your field that you need to know, the people you need to read, the talks, the YouTube videos, conferences that are available, and it's always on.
So I wanted to finish us off with 3 rapid answer questions. One is, do you have a book that you want to recommend to the audience?
Oh, a book. Oh my God. Well, actually, the book I normally have here. Well, I have 2 books in One is Ayn Rand, very political activist, so I'm not going to go there. But Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is not even from my he's he's an amazing writer. And there's an episode I love. For me, literature is about the big references as always, but I read a lot of technical stuff. So.
And do you have a quote that you want to share?
Work hard, play harder. And I think for a long time, people like if we party or if we are happy, that's not the way we behave. Yes, it is. And I'm out of the closet. Yes. When it's time to celebrate, we need to celebrate. There's not enough time to celebrate because it takes so hard to achieve that. Oh, another one that I love is that African proverb. If I want to go faster, I'll go by alone. If I want to go far, I'll go with others.
Yes, that's
working in a team and having the vision and working. I hate working by myself all the time. So I'm really a social animal, and even if it's online, listening and being able to talk and listen and get all this, I love it. It's such a 1 + 1 = 3.
And to finish us off, do you have a word of the year for 2023?
Oh, I know you have.
I
know
do.
You have. I know. I've been following your words for the last years. I can't choose just one word, Sarah.
You have to. Okay, 2.
Okay.
I'm easy.
If what I want to do comes together this year, is like a big dream come true. So it's really about achievement. I think the word for this year could be achievement for now.
So that's your north for the year, and I think that's a great way to finish today. So thank you for being with us today. It was a pleasure having you here. I loved bringing Rita to the podcast today. After we stopped recording, our conversation lasted quite a while, and we had trouble stopping at any point. We clearly share a passion for the empowerment of founders and a curiosity of the next startup that knocks on our door. I don't know about you, but I was inspired by our conversation today. Rita has been able to be in her ikigai, which is something you don't commonly hear. She lives and works in her passion, which means life for her is a real flow between all of her activities. I also appreciated how she shared her lesson, going from someone who wanted to be liked to someone who knew that was never going to be possible for everyone, allowing her the freedom to be herself in all her endeavors. What were your favorite parts? I'm always happy to hear. For now, I'm grateful that you are on the other side, and thank you for coming back to the podcast. If you ever wanted to give it a review, I would appreciate the gesture, as it brings the story of Rita and all the other amazing women that have been here further along to more people. This podcast has been produced by Alice Stansfield. It is time to go now. This is Sara Vicente Barreto, and I get to do this.